Deshaun Watson suspension. Some
Scenario
people
number
saying
two,
not
bro.
enough. Some people saying he shouldn't at all.
Well, here's the facts about this one right away. The former federal judge that they brought in to be the arbitrator said that 6 games was enough. Now the NFL has filed an appeal, basically, I think, saying that they don't think it is enough. And then today it came out that Roger Goodell has said, I'm recusing myself from this. We're going to bring in someone else to make this decision because I'm not going to do it. So,
hey, Roger doing that thing of like when two girls that you talking to at the club, you just leave.
well here's the thing. Here's the biggest piece of it. And then the whole thing is just wild, just crazy to me about how they did it. The NFL brought in this ex-federal judge, Susan Robinson, a woman, in to help rule on some of these things and put some fairness and some decency into the situations around the NFL. However, now they're going back on the first ruling, the very first ruling that she's been a part of for the league. They're saying not good enough. We're going to go ahead and we'll take care of this ourselves. Like, what's this yo-yo bullshit that they're doing with this? Like for me, when the 6 games came down, first of all, I was like, whoa, like that's feels kind of not what I was expecting. I mean, I was expecting a year on the official side, even though the brother has gotten curved already. But when I saw that 6 games, I said, man, they didn't put the tax on this. And now you got to know the tax that I'm talking about. That's the black tax. That's the Michael Vick tax. They was like, hold on now, player. No, you got to still, you can't get this at list price. You got to pay a little tax too. And now they're pulling it back. They're going to put a new judgment on. So basically the 6 games is going to be the baseline that's going to get thrown out. And now they're going to come back in with some more. So the question and the scenario I'm putting out here about this is the NFL doing this simply to appease the masses, or are they trying to set a standard for what how things should be handled around the league?
It's to appease the masses. Like, come on. Look, the Cleveland Browns, they let a trade go through. So that means that you're letting, if you were thinking about suspending him, couldn't they put an embargo saying like, hey, this player can't be moved because...
Oh, you mean put him on the inactive, on the commissioner's exempt list? Sure, they could have done that.
Right, you can't move him because we're doing an investigation. You can't move him.
That surely could have been an option. It's an option that they decided to say, no, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the one thing I'm going to tell you about this up front is that now for sure that they've done this, we know that the hammer is going to come now. Like the hammer is going to come now. I don't know.
And also they don't like the Cleveland Browns because they let them make this trade.
Well, the thing I don't know is that, all right, so is this now going to mean that this is going to go out to a full year that they're going to take them out? Is it going to be 10 weeks? Is it going to be 11 weeks? Like, is it going to be a certain percentage of the season? I don't know. Answer might come out at any moment, but it sounds like they're going to be diving this in through camp as well. So no matter what, Deshaun ain't going to be ready to go when it's time to get out there. Now, the thing that I look at with this entire thing is that, once again, it shows that the league is more decisive about trying to punish brothers in the situations that they find themselves in than they are of anything else. Because there's been plenty of instances where this could have came up and this could have been addressed with plenty of other egregious situations over the year in the league, and they didn't do it. So now you're taking a hard line on crime and doing things like this. And what's going to happen is that also an addendum to this, but also important. Also this week, they announced that Stephen Ross, who's the owner of the Miami Dolphins, is suspended until October 17th. And they're taking draft picks for improper contact with Sean Payton and with Tom Brady about trying to get them to come over to Miami as player, coach.
And he tried trying to get Florio to tank games too, right? And to meet with Tom Brady.
Brian Flores,
yeah.
I mean, you got that whole thing still going on. There's been no resolution in what's happening with that. Listen, man, it's a joke. The whole way that the NFL tries to apply morality into situations and then put it in through I guess league legislature, it's a joke. You mean to tell me that a federal judge isn't equipped to make a decision on how something should be handled based on precedents and based on the information that was on the table? So now you got to pull it back and do it yourself. It's a joke.
I'm just wondering too, though. I mean, I believe Deshaun Watson did mess with these women 100%, but I'm looking at it legally. Like, I didn't get convicted for anything. How are you going to take stuff away from me and the things that the whatever jurisdiction dropped and said it wasn't enough evidence? So how do you have the precedent to do that? Not saying that they should. I'm just saying, like, how do they have the precedent if the legal court said no?
Well, this is also the thing that starts to get into things when you talk about professional sports leagues having antitrust rights and being able to make their own rules and being able to govern
Okay,
themselves.
there we go.
That's the
Yep.
type of stuff that I think that starts to call that whole thing into question and needs to be recalled too. Like, should they be subject to the same rulings that other businesses and individuals are too? Because when you start to do things like this, I think the last thing that the NFL wants is for the federal government to start saying, you know what, you guys ain't running this the right way. And I'm having too many things come out. I'm hearing about discrimination in hiring practices. I'm hearing about orchestrated sexual abuse and discrimination in DC. You had Daniel Snyder that was on the stand this past week doing things like that. And now you have how you're handling employee affairs based on taking things away from the actual certified ex-government officials to be able to handle it. Like, it sounds like you can't keep your house in order, so maybe you need some help doing it.
So that's the flip of it, is that they're gonna be like, you know what, I got you.
I mean, in my mind, I think it should happen. I still think that, it gets into that slippery slope where you say, what's the lines between private business and what's not? But anybody who looks at the NFL and doesn't realize that's 32 guys playing God, they a fool. They're a fool and a half.
I mean, now, do we previously a previous episode we talked about the Washington team in Washington, the Commanders. Now,
Yeah.
we were predicting, a lot of people watched that video that was trying to predict the Washington Commanders future name. Is there a way that we could see two ownerships changing between the Miami Dolphins and the Commanders?
I don't think you'll see an ownership change in Miami because they've already made a ruling about what they're going to do. I mean, they suspended the guy until October 17th, which is roughly like week 5.
What does the suspension mean for an owner?
It means absolutely nothing.
I'm trying to figure out what that means.
It means absolutely nothing. It's a slap on the wrist. It means nothing. How do you suspend the owner and then take some draft picks? Like, that's what it is. I mean, where does conduct go?
Now, does the draft picks go to another team? Or
no, they're just off the board. Like back in the day when the Timberwolves, like when the Deflategate thing happened, yep. Or back in the day when the Timberwolves.
So we taking money out of some brothers' pockets. Then it's like 4 or 5 brothers ain't gonna get no check.
I mean, what'll happen is that probably they'll still have the same amount of picks through the supplemental rounds and things like that.
Or free agents.
But it does take a first round. It does probably. I don't know what draft it is, what pick it is. If it's like a 4th and a 5th round pick, you keep that bullshit too. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it's just, once again, shows the inconsistency and how the NFL is allowed to just play God for itself. And it's it's at this point it's old hat. I'm tired of it. It's just it is what it is. I don't know what it's going to take to shake the NFL. They seem to have Neo off the Matrix everything that can possibly come their way. I don't know what it's going to take at this point in order to happen. But to answer your question about ownership changes, the thing in DC, man, is serious. Like the thing that went on in DC, that's wild. Like how that all went over. Like, it's almost as crazy as the Vince McMahon situation. And they got Vince about to paint with the pressure. So, yeah, and he was Teflon Don as any franchise owner was.
I mean, he literally owned it, and there was no other organization to actually kick him out.
Well, the only difference is that if Vince would have been sticking around in there, they would have fooled around, took that business apart, and then took all his funds away too. Like Vince getting out of Dodge, let him keep some money in his pocket.
So, do you think that Snyder could be gone?
Oh, I think it's definitely a possibility. I think that it's difficult. I think you look back at the Donald Sterling situation and about just kind of you had to get enough owners that wanted to say, "Hey, we're not rocking with it. It's got to be out." But here's the thing about
they got Jim Irsay out the paint, didn't they? Not Jim Irsay, the Tennessee Titans owner out the paint, right? No, Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry, they got him out the paint.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen.
This is way more egregious to me than the Carolina Panthers.
I mean, you asking for consistency from the NFL, though.
That's true.
And okay, I'm just going to tell you to be careful doing that because I don't know if you heard the headline of this particular segment. They decided that a punishment wasn't deep enough and then they wanted to add a little bit more on. So just as easy as they could go that way, they could go that much lighter. So basically, I break it down to you this way. As much as the league is willing to go heavier on brothers, Colin Kaepernick, Michael Vick, they can be just as easy to go light on these white guys that are running these businesses. And a la Stephen Ross got suspended from a job. I don't even know what you do where being suspended makes a difference. They still got to use his money to pay the checks. What, are these guys not going to get paid because he's suspended? Nah, that ain't happening. Tyreek Hill about to get paid. Tua about to get paid. These guys about to get their money, and business going to go on for the Miami Dolphins, and that's how it's going to go. But it's just a joke, man, and how that league is allowed to politicize and be able to move its things is wild as hell. And so I'm not going to hold my breath waiting for revolution to be spawned in the NFL. Probably the only thing with the Commanders that can maybe be something that's disadvantaged is that white women were damaged in this.
That's the key.
That could be it. And I'm not going off racial bias or anything like that. I'm just going off how it seems to be the rulings get made in the NFL.
Shout out to them. I'm just trying to figure out what side of that we can get them to become. I wanted them to become the DC Rayful Edmonds. That was my.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what they're gonna become. They're gonna become the DC Primes once Jeff Bezos buy them. If Daniel Snyder is out.
Hey, and that's a real name that you can name them too.
They're gonna be the DC Primes. So.
Because he could probably put a thing saying, I don't want anything to do with the other organization. I'm changing my team name.
He can change the colors. He can do all the whole thing. The only thing he ain't going to do is move him out of that media market. That's the only thing that ain't going to happen. Now, the only thing that I think that you probably could see potentially happen in that space is I'm interested to see how that works based on the Amazon distribution deal they got. Like, how can you make money off a distribution deal to stream games but own a team? Like, I don't know how that works.
Ted Turner on TNT and TBS, and the Falcons and
that's real.
The Hawks and the Braves playing on there.
That's real. But he was streaming his own games though. Like
right.
He wasn't.
It'd be an exclusive package for my Washington fans on Prime.
No, hell no. I think the Amazon's getting like Sunday Ticket or something in next couple of years.
So that's something you think is going to happen?
They've got Thursday Night Football starting this year.
Yeah, I know that. So you think that's the next step?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the NFL started its own streaming thing this year, too. Like, there's an NFL Plus coming. Look it up. $4. It's going to be $5 a month.
Wow.
I think you already can sign up.
Wow. Okay. I mean, my final question before we move on. Is all this stuff ever going to really hurt the NFL?
Nah. I mean, what do you mean hurt the NFL? Like, what do you mean? Like
will they really start losing revenue where you'll start seeing a shift towards a basketball more, back to baseball?
We're going to see. We're going to see what happens with this. This Deshaun Watson thing is interesting to me because of the fact that it could mobilize the type of people that people do like to listen to, basically. The Colin Kaepernick thing fell on deaf ears because half the country didn't care and thought that it was about being anti-patriotic or whatever other bullshit. You can go back into the scenario archives and check my opinion.